Okay, let's talk about the train derailment and more information. I've been covering the Ohio stuff for a while. This past week, I covered it multiple times. You don't really get to hear a lot about what's going on in Ohio for some weird reason from mainstream media, but I'm sure like the fact that the fact that this is gaining a lot of momentum on the internet will probably cause some of the more mainstream outlets to start covering it a little bit more. $25K per family, by the way. No, $25K for 5,000 people that live in East Palestine. So $5 per person is what the Norfolk Southern Railroad Association decided to pay as like shut the fuck up money,
We just saw in the middle of the country a giant chemical fireball, 100-foot flames, and very few people asking questions about what led up to this. So there was a derailment in 2012 in New Jersey,
releasing 20,000 gallons of dangerous chemicals and noxious gas into the air.
There's children in the town that are being affected by this.
And there was pressure on regulators to do something about those kinds of trains. And so the Obama administration had a rule proposed to better regulate these trains. The National Transportation Safety Board told the regulatory agency, said, listen, these regulations should broadly cover not just oil, they should cover what's known as Class 2 chemicals. And the chemical industry lobbyists went to work pressuring the regulatory agency to limit the definition of what a high hazard flammable train is. Limit it in a way that the train in Ohio, that kind of train ended up not being classified as a high hazard flammable train.
The NTSB closely monitoring 4 cars that are filled with vinyl.
You don't understand. The additional safety measures that you would have to implement if it's a high hazard train, and the insurance and everything surrounding that transportation would be far too costly. That's it. It would impact the profit margin of Norfolk Southern, worth $50 billion, as a matter of fact. So, Honestly, is popping. I don't Okay. Anyway, let's continue.
Chloride. It has been found to be linked to cancer.
Trains that were subject to this rule were going to be required to use a special kind of new braking system to try to deter or at least reduce the damage from derailments.
ECP delivers the unmatched performance of air brakes with the precision of electronic communications.
Most trains in the country are still using technology from the Civil War era. But the moment the government was considering making it a mandate, the railroad industry's changed its tune. It cited cost concerns to pressure against that rule.
We want to see federal regulations when they're necessary, not just in reaction to a headline in the Washington Post.
Obama's rule included that measure to expand the larger use of those brakes on the nation's rail system. But in that 2016 election year, the Republican Party got about $6 million from the rail industry. And Senate Republicans started beating the drum for Trump to repeal the rule. Donald Trump repealed the brake rule so that the industry does not have to even start to use these kinds of brakes. One former Federal Railroad Administration regulator told us that these brakes, which are known as ECP brakes, would have mitigated a disaster like this. And we just learned today, after the publication of our story, federal officials told us that this train did not have those brakes on the train.
It's not just these brakes, for the record. Every part of this story is fucked up. It's not just the brakes. It's the hazardous material. It's the hazardous material classification, as the video mentioned. It's also what the labor unions were demanding, because trains get derailed, unfortunately, all too frequently in this country. As a matter of fact, from what I understand, multiple train derailments have happened across the United States recently. One in Montgomery County, Texas, one in Spartanburg County, South Carolina. And if you are wondering why this keeps happening, well, the railway union mentioned why these things are going to end up happening. There's another one in Houston, Texas, apparently. Emergency crews are responding to a deadly train derailment near Houston. They're responding to another train derailment near Houston, Texas. Over 16 rail cars carrying hazardous materials crashed, prompting Union Pacific to monitor air quality at the site of the crash, according to Splendora Police Department. Now, this is the worst I told you so moment. If you recall, when we were having a conversation, good graphic on this by UAE. What? 200-mile radius report for East Palestine Village, Ohio. Okay. So one thing I got to mention to you is that if you recall, during the railroad union talks that were happening, I showed you guys how deadly and devastating train derailments can be. We covered it extensively. And it's not like this was an unforeseeable event. This was a very much foreseeable event. People that work in the railroads, people that are conductors, people that work on the cars, like they all said time and time again that we need better safety measures, we need better equipment, we need more railroad workers to ensure the safety, okay, of the operations, because these are highly toxic pollutants, chemicals that are necessary to take from place to place. They openly mentioned that this was going to happen. It's not the first time that they've said this, and it won't be the last time. And nobody heeds their warning. And here is the impact of such a here's the impact and consequence of such devastating criminal negligence. The other part of this story that's also deeply fucked up, if we're going to go back to Ohio for a moment, is the reality that is the reality that like they also got everyone to get back into the town immediately after they did the controlled demolition, the controlled explosion, so they could do a controlled burn of the highly toxic chemicals that were inside of the train car, right? They sent the kids back to school. They sent everybody back to work. They sent everybody back to come to their homes. Why? Because regardless of the toxic pollutants absolutely murking all the fucking animals in the vicinity, okay, people don't get cancer that fast. People get cancer over a long period of time. This is what's happening to cars after driving through spurts of rain 70 plus miles southeast of the East Palestine incident. Anyway, it looks like salt, to be honest. Yeah, I don't know what this is. But the point is, and we've covered this a lot. Chem student here taking a quick look at the actual chemical that's been spilled, vinyl chloride, and what happens to it when it's burned, raises a ton of alarms. Like, basically, what ended up happening is that they have the account that posted that is a Christo-fascist. What? This? Oh, the Stu Peters guy? Yeah. I don't care. It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant to the subject matter other than the fact that, like, you know, even right-wing motherfuckers are recognizing that this shit is fucked up, except liberal media, for the most part, is not really covering it. Vinyl chloride, written chemically as C2H3Cl, is a colorless compound that's used in making plastics. It's extremely low flash point of minus 63 centigrade. minus 73 Fahrenheit, is considered extremely hazardous to human health, and exposure to heat or water results in a violent reaction. Elaborating on its danger to human and animal life, vinyl chloride is also highly carcinogenic. While the legal limit to exposure, according to OSHA, is 5 ppm within an 8-hour workday, it poses significant risk of developing cancers under any level of exposure. In addition to cancers, it also induces dizziness, nausea, visual disturbances, extreme headaches, and ataxia at 4,000 ppm exposure. Above the 12,000 ppm exposure can bring about cardiac arrhythmia, RADS, and fatal respiratory failure, but the worst shit happens when it catches fire. When vinyl chloride undergoes combustion, it's always a violent process, but when it's over, it decomposes into carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, hydrogen chloride, and phosgene. It's the last two that are worrying parts, and why this is most definitely still dangerous. Hydrogen chloride is a gas which, upon contact with water vapors in the air, turns into hydrochloric acid that has a pH of 1.1, meaning exposure to it will corrode tissue. Even short exposure can lead to blindness, severe burns, and mouth, throat, and stomach damage. Phosgene is a gas that kind of smells like hay. Historically, it's been used in the armies in World War I and II as poison gas. It's dangerous to humans at 2 ppm of exposure and is primarily known for causing pulmonary edemas, hypoxia, and in high exposure, death after 2 to 3 days. Needless to say, a freight train's worth of burned vinyl chloride being released in the atmosphere is a whole lot worse than what is being reported. After only a few days, there's already been a mass animal death. This shit is not safe to return only after a week. But why did they fucking return only after a week? Well, I'll tell you why. One, because it's the same reason as to why Norfolk Southern thought that they could get away with just giving $25,000 to the town to shut the fuck up. And two, the reason why they had to get back is because they had to, run the lines. There's more trains that got to run. So if you tell people that they can't get back there, if you tell people they can't get back there, but then trains are still running through, that means that you didn't do your, you didn't do the cleanup well enough. You have to also look at the well waters. You have to consistently, for a month, for a couple months at least, keep analyzing the natural water supply keep testing the water supply to ensure that these unique chemicals have not made its way into the drinkable water. This is something that you have to do. It's ridiculous that they were just just get back. Just get in there. Who cares? Fuck it. YOLO. 3 additional chemicals were discovered on East Palestine train derailment, by the way. What is this?
Norfolk Southern train derailed in East Palestine, and tonight we know more about the chemicals that were on the train.
First News digital reporter Jen Rodriguez has been in the village today, taking a closer look at what else was on that train. She has those details and much more in our top story tonight at 6.
We now know 3 more chemicals that were on board the Norfolk Southern train that derailed here in East Palestine just over a week ago. And we're being told that some of those chemicals are dangerous.
We basically nuked a town with chemicals so we could get a railroad open.
The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency sent a letter to Norfolk Southern stating that ethylene glycol monobutyl ether, ethylexyl-acrylate, and isobutylene were also in the rail cars that were derailed, breached, or on fire. Caggiano says ethylexyl-acrylate is especially worrisome. He says it's a carcinogen, and contact with it can cause burning and irritation in the skin and eyes. Breathing it in can irritate the nose, throat, and cause coughing and shortness of breath. Isobutylene is also known to cause dizziness and drowsiness when inhaled.
I was kind of surprised that when they quickly told the people they can go back home, but then said if they feel like they want their homes tested, they can have them tested. I would have far rather they did all the testing.
Caggiano says it's possible some of these chemicals could still be present in homes and on objects until you clean them thoroughly.
There's a lot of what ifs, and we're going to be looking at this thing 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the line and wondering, gee, cancer clusters could pop up, well water could go bad.
Caggiano recommends anyone who's in the East Palestine area get a health checkup. He says get a record now of where your health stands so that moving forward you'll have documentation of any possibly related effects to the train derailment. In East Palestine, Jennifer Rodriguez, WKBN 27 First News.
Nope.
I'm Stan.
Like, how'd they discover the new chemicals when, what are we acting like they didn't fucking know? Like, you think Norfolk Southern didn't know what they were transporting? That they had no accounts for everything that they were transporting? Oh man, how crazy. The U.S. EPA sent a letter to Norfolk Southern stating that the ethylene glycol monobutyl ether, ethyl acrylate, and isobutylene were also in the rail cars that were derailed, breached, or on fire. Caggiano says that the ethyl hexyl, am I saying it right? Oh yeah, I did, by the way. After a train derailment, Ohio residents are living a plot of a movie they helped make. White Noise. White Noise was about this, a train derailment happening in a fucking Ohio town. People from this town signed up to be extras in the movie. And now they're living through that. What do you say to the centrists on the timeline who are insisting this is social media panic? I think there is an element of social media panic caused here, 100%. Yeah, for sure. People don't trust the federal government. People don't trust the government in general. People don't trust the federal agencies like even the EPA. And that is a hard battle. The EPA and the federal government are supposed to fight back and fight for that goodwill every step of the way by doing exactly the opposite of what they've been doing so far. So, on top of that, when you have a severe lack of reporting on the matter, people have understandable fucking questions about what the hell's going on. But as far as the centrists on the timeline who are insisting that the water isn't contaminated or nobody's died yet, they're fucking freaks. Because as soon as this shit happened and I covered it, what did I tell you? Stuff like this happens all the time. The problem is you never see the impact of it. The reason why Norfolk Southern can get away with like a 25 grand fucking hush money payment that is like literally more insulting than anything else is because people don't die immediately. The human body is a very unique and adaptive thing, an adaptive organism, which means you won't hear about it right now. You'll hear about it in a decade down the line when, as the hazardous material expert also correctly pointed out, there are cancer clusters happening in East Palestine, Ohio for no reason, or birth defects that are happening in East Palestine, Ohio for no fucking reason. Do you get it? Maybe one of the worst takes of all time. I never had a source assaulted in front of me until today when an Israeli soldier who stopped my interview did with this Palestinian peace activist, Issa Amro in Hebron. I can't stop thinking about how dehumanizing the What? I can't stop thinking about how dehumanizing the occupation is on the young soldiers charged with enforcing it. What? Am I reading that wrong? Wait. Am I reading this wrong? This makes no sense. Like, wait. There's no fucking way this guy is literally watching like an innocent peace activist get brutalized right in front of his fucking eyes. Wait, what? I don't think this guy is this guy cannot in good conscience be saying that, like, I can't stop thinking how dehumanizing the occupation is on the young soldiers charged with enforcing it. I think this is like written really weirdly. There's no way he's like, I think people are misunderstanding what he's saying. He feels bad for the soldiers in this situation? Like, what? I don't understand this at all. Okay, I don't know what the fuck this is, but I don't want to... Oh, Bethlehem, House of Meat in Arabic. Okay. Did he reply to anybody? Nope, that's the last thing he brought up. Yeah. You watch them brutalize a peace activist right in front of your eyes.
I want an ambulance. I don't know.
What's the matter with you, guy? Are you so bored?
Hide the phone. Send the video to someone. Yes, please. Don't touch me. Come on.
What's down there? Hey! Leave him!
For what?
Oh, fuck. This is the guy. Today, I was detained and beaten violently by an Israeli soldier in Hebron. I was showing the famous American writer Lawrence Wright of the New Yorker, the Israeli occupation and apartheid in my hometown in Hebron. I don't even understand how this guy watched this and said, wow, it's so dehuman. The occupation is so bad. Not on the Palestinians, but like on the fucking brutal soldiers who are just forced to be brutal. It's like turning them into these monsters, you know? I don't get it. Anyway, let's get back to our fucking monsters here. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, we've faced issues from
container shipping to airline cancellations. Mm-hmm. Now we got balloons.
That's right.
But also the best time ever to be working in transportation because of these resources. And we know ultimately it's in the hands of those who are on the ground that the biggest difference is going to be made. We've faced issues from container shipping to
cool stuff. But yeah, derailments will continue happening all around as they are. Chemical spills will keep happening in those derailments. People will keep dying. Joe Biden had the opportunity to listen to the railroad unions and the union workers and do something about it. And they didn't do that. So, shouts out to Ronald Reagan. Shouts out to deregulation. Shouts out to fucking union busting. Shouts out to endless profit seeking that ends up destroying humans' lives.